The role of Maven in MuleSoft. So Maven plays a critical role in MuleSoft, and we fail to notice the intricacies of Maven, which will sometimes backfire when we work with projects, and we may miss some of the important things in our project. So although it is basics, I would like to go through what Maven is, what role is being played by Maven in MuleSoft projects in a little basic way. Let's get started. We all know MuleSoft uses Maven just for build and deployment purpose. And let's see the different role being played by Maven here. So it's used as a build tool, and it's used to maintain the dependencies, and it also manages the POM model by maintaining different dependencies and different project requirements under POM. And the Maven also serves and enables a centralized repository for us to maintain. So these are the basics we know theoretically, and we are going to see a little in detail on every aspect to understand Maven better. As a first step, we are going to take a look at what dependency maintenance is and what's its importance. So let's go to the Maven project, and I'm taking some project as an example, and I'm opening this POM file. You can very well see the POM helps in identifying the dependency and its version. For example, in my project, I have used MySQL connector. Let's go to the MySQL connector and see what are the different types of versions available. You can see here it's numerous versions available. Just in 8, there are 15 different dependencies, and the major version 6 contains around 6 different types of major and minor versions. So while we have all these versions, and we are choosing the versions for different requirements and different fixes that's given by MySQL. So it's very important to understand which version we are using with a combination of which project. So while conveying this to the bigger team, say for example, if the team contains 50 members, the architect might need to convey which is the right version to use to the entire team. That can't be orally conveyed or through email, which will be interpreted by different members in a different way. So in order to maintain the consistency, this POM file is used. So we maintain the name of the jar, group by group ID, artifact ID, and the version ID, so that this is committed into the centralized code repository and used by different team members in an identical way. Now let's see what the fuss is all about enabling centralized repository. So now let's take a look at the POM file again. So now you can see here, the first problem is to find out which dependency to be used, which group ID, which name, and which version. So now the Maven is trying to address how these jar files can be distributed to the 50 different members in the project, as well as to the members across the world, whomsoever trying to use that particular dependency or particular API or particular jar file, and how will they access it and where will they download it from. So there will be a problem, and different people might download a different jar although they know a version. So if there is a centralized repository from where there is an automatic way of fetching this jar file, it will be great. So that's what Maven is trying to address. So there is a concept introduced under the POM file to mention the set of repositories or the set of public libraries where the Maven or where the project can download the dependent and the necessary jar files from. So this concept is very interesting to have this public repositories where different jars are available. For example, let's take a look at this Maven public repository. It's here. So we have as many open source jars as available so that it can be automatically downloaded in the first attempt. So we always mention Maven public repository here as one of the repositories, so that if you add corresponding or dependent jar files, if it is available first in this Maven public repository, it tries to download it. So the concept is not just restricted into one public library, or I mean, for simplicity to understand, I am calling it as library, but you can very well understand as a repository is a collection of different jar files, some same jar files with different versions in an organized in an structured way. So that is what they have done here. Let's take a look at any one library, and there you have different versions maintained in the properly structured manner. Is that all with Maven? And the same topic can be explained in a different way, and how to enable centralized repository on an organization's perspective. So for example, the organization might have purchased different licenses for particular API. So whenever the API is purchased with some specific cost, it won't be available in the public repository. But the enterprise has achieved this license, but it has to be distributed to all the different members while the API is being used for development purposes. At that time, you can't distribute it or send a mail again on how they will retrieve it and use it. So in that situation, it's the same concept, but it's not a public library, but rather it will be used as a private library. So you can take a look at the M2 folder. So here, whenever we run a project in local, it maintains local repository under .m2 file, as we all know. So those who doesn't know about this structure, so always whenever you are working with project, it doesn't put the jar in a scattered way, but it puts in a structured way as seen in the public libraries. It maintains local library also under .m2 folder. Under repository, you see a huge amount of jars that are already maintained in a structured way. So when it is available here, you can Maven tries to fetch it from local if available, instead of going and downloading it every time from the public library. So imagine this is available in local, but in the enterprise wide perspective, we can put this content of M2 folder under a separate server and expose this as a private library. As you can see here, it's a public library, but instead of this, you can put it in your own server, and then you can expose this URL under the POM file. So you can add, I can show you an example, and you can imagine that we will be having another repository, and this could something like siva.com/ private Maven repo. So I can put all the necessary dependencies that are required for most of my projects, and create and put them under a dedicated server, and then expose it to the intranet, so that only company-wide employees can use. So this will help people using jar files in a scattered way and putting it in a different way. So they don't need to maintain it, they just need to use this repository every time, and then whomsoever wants to distribute this jar file to the different team members can go to the centralized server with admin rights. They can open, and then they can preserve that jar into the private repository, so that other team members can use it. And the third aspect is the one that everyone is already familiar of, which is project management using POM model, which is project object model is what is called POM. So let's see, this is already known, so I'm going to spend a little time to explain this. So all the project requirements, structure, dependencies, everything is brought under one single file called pom.xml, and it is structured in a way, it explains so many things for the Maven to do this build and deployment. So it explains about the name and version of the project that you're working on, and as you add new features, you will add or you will go with the versions in an incrementally adding the minor version, and if you are doing any major changes, you will make changes in the major version. And also it talks about different plugins that are required by the project. For example, here we used shared library of Spring, and other Maven plugins are automatically added. And another section, as we have just seen, there is a dependencies section allocated that lists out the different types of jars that are used, different APIs that are used, and other dependencies. And the final section is about repositories. We have just seen what the repository section is all about. And it simply talks about entire project structure and the dependencies, related dependencies under pom.xml. Last but not the least, we are going to see the build tool feature of this Maven. And you can see here, this is a project I'm trying to build here. So I can issue the command maven clean package. So as we all know, this command runs. So while running, it fetches all the dependent, first of all, it collects all the details from POM file. And then it runs the sequence of steps in order to collect all the dependencies and the related details that are required. And it finds out where the jar file is based on the repository and collects them all together, and then prepares the final jar file. So I'm giving this example through a command prompt for the beginners to understand what's happening behind the scene. So when you take a look at this Anypoint Studio, when you are running graphically, say for example you have this file and you simply right click and run. So what's happening is this green button triggers the action and supplies this command that we are running via command line. In the same way, it's running behind with the help of this default Maven that comes along with Anypoint Studio. Sometimes you might override the configuration settings, and then you can use your own installation under Anypoint Studio. Here is what we need. So you can type Maven and you can click here. So sometimes you can choose to use embedded Maven installation, which comes along with Anypoint Studio, which is 3.3.9. And if you want to override, if you don't want to use this embedded one, and you can uncheck, and then you can click to install on your own whichever the versions that you need, and then run it. So right now I am using embedded ones, which is running fine, and why not, we can leave it as is. And whenever we run it, this is the command that's being triggered to this embedded Maven. So it automatically runs the command, makes the new build, deploys it under the target folder, and then makes it say under the target file, it creates this jar file. And Anypoint Studio has an embedded server internally, and it puts this jar file under the installation folder of MuleSoft's runtime. So this build feature is further extended to make it super sophisticated automation of build and deployment process. So that's done via Jenkins, and I have already explained in detail in one of my previous videos about how we can enable this automation of build and deployment process by using Jenkins. You can check it out when you get time. I'll put the link in the description below. But anyways, I want to go through as a part of this video about why and how the Maven is preferred. So I have created this project in Jenkins, which is to automate build and deployment of this particular project. And I can show the configurations here, and especially I want to show how it is done with the help of Maven command, because our topic of focus in this video is to find out the purpose of Maven. So the Jenkins can be used along with Maven, where we issue this command, same command which we issue in Anypoint Studio. We are doing it via Jenkins, so that automatically certain features can be combined together to take the necessary code, build and deploy it into the Anypoint Studio. So this is a simple example of why we need to go for Maven based project, just to automate all the build and deployment process, so that you can minimize the deployment error to the very least. So that's it in this video, and we have seen the different features and roles of Maven in Mule-4. So I apologize in case you feel this is very primitive and basics of Maven, because I targeted this video especially for the beginners who are focusing on just MuleSoft, and I also require and request them to go through Maven separately and work on few Maven commands, so that they can familiarize themselves on this Maven. So that you know and take better decisions by knowing what Maven is doing. Otherwise, you will become blind in what's happening behind the scene, and you will be missing some critical step while you are doing the development process in MuleSoft. So hope you got benefited out of this video and you like this video. So please like my video and subscribe for my channel, so that it encourages me to do more useful projects. Thank you, and see you in yet another good video. Bye.